Hello and welcome to this episode of AF Mentors podcast. I have Chrissy with me. How are
Hi.
you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You look great.
Thanks. Going out for lunch after this.
Where are you going?
We are going to one of my favourite restaurants, which is an Asian fusion restaurant.
Good
Yeah,
choice. Good choice.
this is one of my Christmas indulgences today.
Oh, very nice. Is it like a traditional Christmas thing that you go out?
So yeah, my husband, who is, his own boss as well, just takes me, his mum, and his colleague Hannah out for Christmas lunch. So it's like a fake work Christmas party.
That's nice.
Yeah, be
Do you do
lovely.
that? Do you have a Christmas party?
Yeah, I had one on the 30th of November with about 20 of my clients.
Oh, very nice.
Mm.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
nice.
and you can tax deduct that as well, can't you?
Yeah, parts of it, yeah. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we thought we'd do this episode on, in fact, what we should talk about is what we're doing in AFM this week, because this week tends to be kind of when people just like drop off. So we're like, right, let's do a bit of a push, a bit of accountability to the end of this week. Then it's going to be the 20th of December. And then honestly, between the 20th of December and after Christmas, I don't really care what people do.
No.
Like, just chill. If you want to post on social media, post. If you don't. Be organic, be yourself, show up if you want to show up if you've got something exciting to say, but take all of the pressure off. But
Yeah.
for this week, when I say what we've done, what Chrissy has done is an accountability week. So just explain how that works for people.
Okay, so we have paired everyone up, everyone that wants to be involved in AFM, we've paired them up, and the idea being that they message each other at the beginning of every day, set some intentions. Specifically, we've talked this time round about it being social media, but we know it grows legs because they keep each other accountable for loads of other stuff during the day as well. So they set some intentions for that day at the beginning of the day, and then at the end of the day, they need to check back in with each other. And it's a bit of accountability, a bit of pairs coaching, support, building relationships. It's awesome. We love it.
Do you know what? It's so simple, but it works so well. And I think what I love about it is, like you say, pairs coaching, you get to be the coach and kind of the client at the same
Yeah.
time. And also, I know that we've both found this from mentoring, but a lot of the time you'll find like what you're saying on calls or what you're suggesting people do, you're like, and note to self, like, and I'll come off a call and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I've just told her to do that. I need to do that now. Same as
Yeah.
when you're coaching sometimes and I don't know, you're trying to encourage someone to get to the gym or something. And then you're like, okay, I've not been for 2 days. Like if I'm asking my clients to do this, I need to do this too. So it kind of makes you level up as a business owner
Yeah.
too, because you can see very clearly with perspective what someone else should do, and it's really hard to see your own business, but coming from like a coaching lens or a mentoring lens, it makes it much easier for you to kind of be objective about your own business too. So I think that's really useful. The second thing is people tend to make really good friends doing this too, because there's like a bit of banter, because we pair you up with different people, because you've maybe not experienced like working with that person before, because they've got their own expertise and their own way of doing things, and maybe they focus on something slightly different. Like there's always lessons that you can take from other people's businesses and other ways that people do things, and the things that they're struggling with that maybe you already got over or that you're struggling with and they've already figured out. So yeah, it's really good. I love these weeks.
Yeah. So good. So powerful.
All right, so what we were going to talk about today is lessons from this year. So
Yeah.
I did say we both needed to come up with three. I've come up with more than three, but some of them aren't that good. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about like predictions for next year.
Yeah. I'm going to call you out on something. Don't say they're not that good.
I mean, they are no, but sometimes I'll put like a lot of effort into these, and I'm like writing them all out, like really like thinking about. I'm not. Do you know why I think they're not good? And this, like, okay, so maybe you're right. It's not necessarily that they're not good. They're just not necessarily this year. Because it's like, well, I knew that last year as well, but it's
Yeah.
still important.
Yeah. But it's the reasons why it's come up and why it's still a lesson that's going to really help.
Right, you start.
I'll start. Okay. Um, Okay, first one is not to be afraid of hard decisions. So we talk a lot about this in AFM, considering yourself a business owner. Don't just consider yourself an online coach. Not just, I use the word just, I shouldn't have used the word just, but you aren't only an online coach, you aren't only a PT, you are a business owner. And part of being a business owner, just like part of being a grown up, is making hard decisions. And those decisions could be tiny little decisions, or they could be huge decisions. We were having a conversation in the WhatsApp group yesterday about someone thinking it's time to leave their full-time job, right? That's a big decision. But you do have to make hard decisions as a business owner. So my lesson in this, and where this came from as a lesson for me, is that at the beginning of the year, with Jules's help, I created a membership type program. And in October, I closed that membership type program. So I effectively waved bye-bye to part of my income. And it was a really hard decision to make, but it was one of the best decisions I've made. I do not regret starting that membership. I don't regret running it for 10 months, but it was the right thing to do to close it in October, because the time and capacity, both physically, energetically, mentally, that I've had to then focus on other parts of my business have increased other parts of my business. And it was really hard, but it's part of being a business owner.
That leads into one of mine. So let's link those, and then we can discuss them a bit more. So I think we think too much that there's a right or wrong decision, because actually that decision you made would be, it's right because you've made it right, and you've shut it and you've not looked back, and you've been like, where am I going to find the positives in this?
Mm-hmm.
But you can also, you could be like, it was a wrong decision if you then start questioning it, and you never know what would have happened if you'd kept doing that, right? Like, I think so many people get fixated on a right or wrong decision, and there isn't one. And you see this on like a small scale with, I don't know, like, when should I launch something? Like, we were talking about this on the mastermind the other day. It's like, oh, well, is actually January the 6th a good time, or should you wait and give people a week and then do it a week later? But then, like, actually January's a long month and they've just had December, and like, when's payday? And then it's like, well, is it better to wait until February? And it's like, you can argue all of these things. All of them have pros and cons. There isn't a right or a wrong. It's just like, what's the decision you're going to go for, and go all in on it, instead of then like making the decision, then constantly questioning yourself.
Yeah.
But this is true with so many things. Like, even the person we were talking about who's thinking about leaving their full-time job, there's no like right or wrong time to do that, really. You just need to make the decision and roll with it, and be like, I'm going to make this the right decision.
Yeah.
And sometimes people look too much at the outcome, as opposed to like to define whether a decision was good or not, right? Most people will look at that. So say, for example, you had decided to invest in Bitcoin and you've made a load of money. You'd be like, what great decision I made. Not necessarily, because what would you say the same thing if you lost all your money in Bitcoin? No. But that's because you're judging on the outcome. Now, actually, what you should be thinking about is, given the information I had at the time, was that the right decision for me? And if it was, no matter what the outcome is that you can't actually control, and it was a good decision, so the right decision for you at that time was to shut that group coaching program or the membership program. Whether the outcome of that was like good or bad, it was still the right decision for you at the time. And I guess, like, say this person left their job and then, I don't know, suddenly there was another pandemic and they couldn't work in a gym anymore or whatever. It's like, it's not necessarily that it was the wrong decision. It's just unfortunate that like the world turned out that way, right? Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes we can kind of overanalyze decision making, like make the decision and then make it the right decision by the actions that you take. I just don't think there's like a right or wrong decision.
No. And there are very rarely any decisions you make that you can't not unmake, but you can't, we said this in the WhatsApp group yesterday. I think Leanne said it, no decision is final. So, if you wanted to go back to to a full-time job, you could. If I wanted to reopen a membership, I could. But what makes that the right decision is having learned from the one that I've already made.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's useful to play it out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, worst case scenario, I leave this job, and for some reason, all my online clients leave. What would have to happen? Well, you'd have to go and get another job. Okay, so I'd be in the same position I'm in now. Yeah. Okay, now it doesn't seem so. So it's like, really, what's the risk?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
So I think playing it out is sometimes helpful.
Yeah,
And I like to think of decisions like, is this a hat, a haircut, or a tattoo? Have you heard
great.
this before?
Yes, I've heard you say it before.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's just a good way to think about things. Like if you're really, for example, if you're like over procrastinating about like figuring out when you're going to launch in January, it's like, look, that's a hat. You know, if the launch doesn't go so well, you do another one in February. It's not the end of the
yeah,
world. Like, you know, you're going to have loads of launches throughout your career. Like, you learn from it, you move on. There is no real right or wrong there. Just like pick something and put your all into it. And as soon as you made the decision, stop questioning yourself and go with it.
yeah,
If it's more like, oh, I'm going to shut my group membership, okay, well, that's probably more like a haircut. You know, if you wanted to rebuild that, it's going to take some time, it's going to take some effort. And then if it's like, I don't know, I'm leaving my job, I don't even know if that is a tattoo. What's a tattoo decision?
I don't know.
I guess the point is, most decisions you can
Yeah,
do, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Um,
Okay.
all right, next one.
Okay, so the next one for me is remember your why, and linked into that, it's about working smarter, not harder. So one of the things that I realized in the last couple of weeks is that, you know, where this time of year is more social and there are more things kind of cropping up in the diary, I realized I'd kind of neglected having a bit of fun the last couple of months. And um, so I really had to remind myself of why I do this, why I do the job I do. And there's two sides to that, right? There is the fact that I was my client and I felt horrific, and it was through coaching that I managed to get the life that I want. And I now want to help other people do that. There's that part, but there's also the part that meant I stepped away from corporate life so that I could be in charge of my time, so that I could be here when Charlie gets home from school, so that I don't have to say yes to things because I feel I must. And I think it's so important to remember all of your whys. You don't have to just have one, but all of your whys for doing this, so that when things start to feel a little bit off kilter, you can get some of that balance back, whatever balance looks like for you. And the thing that I've really been thinking about is, you know, working smarter, not harder. So I've had to say no to a couple of things already this morning because I just know I don't have the capacity to do those things and give the great service to my clients that I do, and also be here for my family. So I have to say no to things. But in order to say no, I had to remind myself of why I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes saying no means you can say fuck yeah to some
Mm,
things, you know,
mm,
rather than just like, yes, I'll do everything, and then you kind of do it all a bit half-hearted and not with your best effort. I definitely agree with that. And it's so, so easy. I think actually everyone, like bar no one, ends up in this position where at periods of their life, maybe it's, and the aim is to like have it as only a week when you're like, oh, I, you know, didn't spend any time with my family, or like I snapped at my partner, or I've been like over stressing about stuff and I need to call myself out on it and I need to change that. That's completely normal. You're human. Everybody is, but you know, you're self-aware enough, or maybe you've got a coach or you're checking in with someone, so you can kind of like review that and see where you're going wrong. What we
mm,
don't want to happen is you spend a whole year neglecting part of your life and then being like, shit, I've not been living in line with my values. Like the whole reason I left my corporate job was so I could spend more time with my family, and now I'm not doing that, and I'm putting all this pressure on myself. I'm starting to resent a job that I love. I'm putting so much stress and anxiety around this, when actually if I just took that stress off. I think this is one of the lessons for me. It's like, you will do the things and you'll do them better if you just take the stress off, and you'll enjoy them more and you'll have more fun. And weirdly, you'll actually attract more people.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's easier said than done, obviously. But when you notice that you're doing it, and you're like, I need to do this, this, and this, and you pile all this pressure on yourself, it's not that your output goes up. Like,
No.
nothing gets better. You just enjoy it less.
Yeah.
And often your output goes down because you're stressed.
Yeah, for sure. This is where journaling comes into its own. This is, the last week, my journal, I've had to like stop myself writing so many pages, because you need, creating that self-awareness around yourself, and really making sure that you are understanding what's going on under the surface view. We talk to our clients about that all the time. We talk about behavior change. We talk about, patterns that aren't useful and don't serve us, but it's the same for us. So increase your self-awareness and notice these things in yourself. If you're feeling triggered by something, or you don't sit down and open your laptop and think, yes, I get to change lives today, something's going on. And it's so important that you unpick it, because like you said, people will notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like, you'll turn around and just realize you're living a life that you didn't want to live. And very, very easy as a business, as a busy business owner, but honestly as like a busy anyone, to start prioritizing what's urgent at the cost of what's important.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing terrifies me, right? Like when I read However Many Weeks, what's it called? It's like a number of weeks that's your life. I can never remember what the number
yeah.
is. But anyway,
It's terrifying.
Huh?
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. But the one thing that like really got me was when he was talking about procrastination, and he was like, you procrastinate over the most important things, because the most important things don't have a deadline. And he used examples like spending more time with your parents, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I do. So I'm like, oh, now's not a great time to go home. I'll go home like next month or whatever. And then you just keep putting it off. And actually they aren't going to be there forever. And that's terrifying. That's a horrible thing to say. It's a horrible thing to think about, but that's the truth of it. And it's better to face it now. When you're like, oh, I'm too busy with work. It's like, no, you're not really. We actually spoke about this on the podcast yesterday. Someone was asking how to get their mum to be doing more steps. And it was like, I know you probably don't have time to do this, but like, if you could take your mum out. And I was like, no, sorry, but everyone has time to do that. Like, and I get that everybody's busy, but like, what actually is more important than your mum's health? Like, not really anything. And I can see that in the moment, because that one walk isn't going to make any difference.
No.
But doing that consistently and getting her out, getting her moving and building her confidence, and like, then she might do it more, and you're encouraging that. Like, actually, there's no better way of spending your time. I couldn't think of a more important way to spend your time, really. But it's so easy to get distracted with, right, but I've got a work thing, And even when you notice this, if you're talking to friends or family or something, and you're like, oh, I can't do that day because I've got a work thing. Nobody's like, oh, just move the work, we'll just don't go to work, or and I get part of that is because most people don't have the flexibility that we have with our jobs. But people don't tend to question like a work commitment in the same way that they do if it's just like, oh no, that day I'm just like gonna go to the gym, or like they're just come, or I'm tired, or whatever. Interesting. Definitely like call yourself out on that trap of putting what's urgent in front of what's actually important.
Don't allow guilt to creep in either. That's hard. But
guilt for what?
For the saying no, or for if we talk about urgent versus important, if it's a weekend and a client messages you and asks you to change something on their program versus you're taking one of the kids to football, right? Don't feel that actually happened to me at the weekend. I said I can't do it now. I'll do it later when I've finished like being mum. Don't feel guilty about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would even say on the weekend, like, just reply on Monday.
Yeah.
I think sometimes a lot of it is like built up in your own head as well. Like for sure, now and again you get like a really like ununderstanding client, but most clients actually don't expect a response on the weekend and they don't expect a response immediately, and that's okay. And it's more the pressure that you're putting on yourself.
Yep.
If they're like, "Oh, I'd like this change," it's like, yeah, okay, well, you're going to do it within like 24 hours. Like, I don't think people could expect really, or that you should set expectations to expect really very much more than that.
No. No. Good.
Um, okay, one of mine was your biggest strength is to keep going when most people would give up. Resilience is the key to everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I love that one.
and
And
it's
and
not.
by the I think resilience doesn't have to be, like, I think linked into that is that piece around, if you only think you can give 40% today and you give 40%, you've given 100%.
Mm.
Because resilience and carrying on doesn't mean carrying on like nothing else is going on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, or 40%. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think actually like kind of leaning into what resilience is and what that means to you and what that word does mean to you, because to me it's like almost like trusting myself as well, that no matter what happens I do, like, you've got through all your hardest days, you've got through all your quote unquote biggest failures, your business failures, like whatever's been going on in your life, like everyone is so much more resilient than they give themselves credit for.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time you're suffering more in the imagination of like failure or how you'll feel or how what people will think or how people will respond or what, rather than that the actuality of it. Because when it happens, sometimes, a lot of the time it's actually not as bad as what you think, and it's like you can
No.
always deal with it. It's not, I'm not saying it's always easy or nice or comfortable, but whatever it is, like, you will deal with it. And I think just sometimes I just remind myself of that. I'm like,
Yeah.
worse stuff has happened and you've got through it.
Yeah. Everyone is here now doing what they're doing now because of all of the bad things that happened to them, all of the mistakes they made, all of the failures. And that's why you're here, and all of the successes, obviously, but you're here despite all of those things.
Agree. And probably because of them.
Yeah.
Like you learn so much more, and I know they're painful, but like you learn so much more from your failures, from the businesses that didn't work, from the relationships that didn't work. They're way more painful, but they also teach you way more than the successful ones. It's just that you have to have the strength to like look back and learn from those, as opposed to our key tendency, which tends to be like, okay, that was painful, put it in a box, shut it away, never think about it again, and then hopefully somehow you like rebuild some confidence to then try again at something. But
Yeah.
you're probably going to make those same mistakes again in your next business, in your next relationship, in your next job, and your whatever else you're trying, your next
Yeah.
diet. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. But working out what resilience is for you, what that means for you, is really key. And recognizing as well when things do feel tough and that you have had to push through, when you get through to the other side, recognizing, I did it. Give yourself a bit of recognition for the fact that you have shown yourself resilience and you have carried on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's your next one?
Okay. Selling is part of your job.
Mm-hmm.
Find a way of reframing it.
Yeah.
So I have, behind my monitor, laminated, because obviously I have to go the extra step of laminating things, a reminder, and it says, Chrissy, this is your reminder. You are here to help people. You love helping people. It's your job to help people. You can't do that if you don't chat to them, if you don't invite them in, engage, and tell them how you can help them do the thing.
I like that. I think my easiest reframe of selling is that like selling is just an exchange of value. No one's buying anything that they don't value. You don't go into a shop and think, oh, I'm so annoyed that like someone tried to sell me this TV that I really want or this watch that I really want. It's like you're excited to buy it because you value the thing more than the money that you're paying for it. That's why you're buying it, you know? It's the exact same with coaching. And I
Yeah.
think when you back yourself enough and you know that you can really change someone's life, like the cost of coaching is nothing in comparison to the impact that you could have. So yeah, it's not something I've struggled with for a while now, but I get that people feel kind of like icky with selling. And I think the best thing for me has always been like it's an exchange in value. You know,
Yeah.
same with any service that people buy.
But it's also just a conversation.
Yeah.
It's also just, we talk in AFM, we talk a lot. And I know there's been quite a few questions like this recently. How do people get into conversations in the DMs and stuff like that? And just for anyone who's not AFM, what we are not talking about is cold DMing anyone, because that's not how we do things around here. But it is just a conversation. It's inviting them in. It's giving them a reason to engage with your content, engage with your stories, comment, and then just getting into a conversation with them. And you don't have to say, hey Emma, thanks for voting in my poll, would you like to buy my coaching? That's not going to work. But if it does, that's a fluke. But it's just having a conversation, building community, building engagement, building a fan base, if we want to be a bit icky about it. But the best reframe for me this year has just been just see all of that as a conversation. And when I go into launch weeks, or any week really, when I go into it just thinking about how I can have conversations with someone, how I could impart a little bit of knowledge that's going to help them and maybe give me a little bit of know, like and trust with them, I enjoy it so much more, because I finish every day thinking, oh yeah, I sent that person that podcast, I know it's going to help them.
Yeah, I think when you go in just thinking, I'm going to build relationships, I'm going to try and help as many people as possible, I'm going to talk about what I do. Like, those are the three things. And sales doesn't have to be icky, it doesn't have to be pushy. It really shouldn't be, especially when you're coaching people. That's not the way that you want to start that kind of relationship. Yeah, so I agree. Definitely agree with that.
Thanks. What's your next one?
What one do I want to go with? You can get a lot wrong, or you can do a lot of things messy, as long as you have excitement, that you give genuine, relatable value, that you show that you care, and that you have a way to stand out, and that like ultimately like passion will outlast anything else. And I see this all the time, like with the coaches that do the best, they're not ones that have the best like quote unquote sales funnel. They're not ones that have like these email automations that go out at this time and they've just, I think there's still an underlying belief that there's just this one thing that people are missing, and it's like, oh, maybe they know the exact copy I need to write, or maybe I need to get a copywriter to do this, or maybe it's because I haven't got a newsletter that goes out every week, or maybe it's like I'm just missing this one tiny secret. It's not. Like,
No.
it's passion, it's building relationships, it's being genuine, it's showing up consistently, it's being actually excited about what you do, it's caring about your clients, it's showing that you care about your clients. Like that, all of those things, that's what builds a successful business. And I've worked with so many coaches that have none of the back end stuff. And that's fine, because that's quite easy to kind of put together, but that's not what's really, it makes their business more streamlined. It makes it more manageable. It allows them to go from a successful business to a very successful business because they can handle more. But it's not what makes them successful.
No.
It's like that you've already got everything, and now it's like let's just like make sure that we've oiled that machine and that it's working efficiently.
Yeah. And those automations and slick bits in the background, they're not the transformative parts of your business. You are the transformative part of your business. So yeah, it's great that you've got an automation that onboards your clients, but that's pointless if you're not then taking the information that they're giving you in that automation and using it to get them the results that they want.
We're gonna have to finish on this one, right? But this kind of links, and I think we should do a whole nother one on predictions for next year, or like predictions going forward more broadly. But all of that stuff and how quickly technology is moving and AI, everything, all of that will soon be very, like, even more simple than it is, completely outsourced, very, very easy. A lot of VA type jobs are probably going to go as well because this stuff will be so simple to set up.
Mm.
And what's going to be left is you as a coach, you know? And that's always going to be fundamentally the most important thing. Even with social media, like all information based social media is dead. Like, because you can ask a bot or you can get
Yeah.
like, you can basically just ask Canva to make you stuff and you can just fire it out every single day, automate all this stuff. It literally is going to be so, so simple. If it's not already, like, it's going to get even easier. But what's different is your personality, your take on things. Like, that's what's going to need to come across even more. I mean, it's already important, but next year and going forward and every single day going forward into the future, like, there's going to be more and more and more and more important. People want the personal side of personal
Yeah.
branding. There's going to be way less kind of, oh, here you can use my app and like blah 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 and here's a workout and stuff. Like, that's going to be almost like no value. It's going to be, how do we do this in my own unique way that's going to help this unique group of people, and I'm going to be able to coach them personally in a way that they wouldn't get from AI, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to be even more important that you stand out as an individual.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, I love that. Thanks for coming on.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
And we will be back very shortly with predictions for next year.
Oh, yeah, that's exciting.
All right, bye.
Bye.